Am I the idiot for not charging my nephew rent after he moved in with me and my family? So I, male 44, have an older sister Miriam, female 47, and she has a son Javid, male 18, with her husband Joe, 51M. My wife and I have 2 daughters, one 15 and the other 12, and no sons. My daughters love Javid like their big brother, and in our culture, he isn't their cousin but is their brother. My wife loves Javid like her own son. When I broach having a baby to give our kids a brother, she'd point out they have him as a brother. She got me thinking that way too, as I love my sister and Javid is a good boy, but I do know he isn't my son, even if I love him like one. The point of contention is this: in September Javid started university, and his parents evicted him and made him take out loans because he's 18 now. This was odd to me, since my parents never did any of that. But their house rules. As my sister explained to me, this is what Joe's father did with him, and he thinks it'll work because it has for him. Javid moved out to a place where he could pay low rent while also working as much as he could. He bombed all his midterms. So he came crying to my wife and I. I didn't want to take him in because that might ruin the relationship with my sister, which has been rocky, but my wife pointed out how much he was struggling and I agreed. We are not going to make him pay rent, as if I wouldn't ask that of my kids, I'm not going to ask it of him. We make him do chores like cleaning, watching our girls, getting groceries, on our cash, and work a much lighter scheduler part-time job to focus on those loans and a tutor. In the weeks he has been here, he seems readier for his finals, but damage to his grades may already be done. My sister came over yesterday with Joe. They knew Javid was here. I didn't hide that from them. But they assumed that he was paying rent. After asking him how much I charge, I admitted I don't, and Joe got all angry and told me I was undermining his authority. I pointed out my parents never charged me rent, and I wouldn't charge my kids rent, and I'm not going to treat Javid differently if he lives in my house. They left after that, and I got a text from Miriam saying that she and Joe weren't going to come over until I enforced their rules for Javid. I feel like an idiot because I do love my sister and I don't want to cause her difficulties. But I don't want Javid to go down the wrong path, since what was happening before was not working for him. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. It's your home, you make the rules. They also don't have authority over your nephew since he is an adult. And they made that clear by kicking him out once he turned 18. They don't get to kick him out and dictate how he moves forward. For whatever reason, your brother-in-law is hell-bent on making sure his son struggles and has a rough start in life. Maybe he believes it'll help him build character, who knows? Or maybe they don't want to look like bad parents since you're helping him, and they're not. Regardless, you're doing the right thing by helping your nephew so he doesn't fall behind. Comment 2, not the idiot. The only AH in the story is Joe. College in the 80s was a bargain compared to now, and rent as well as buying a place was easy. You show empathy and compassion towards a struggling teen where the parents can't be bothered to step up. Next post will be from your sister in the parenting subreddit titles. Why won't my son talk to me anymore? Now for the update. So, it's been a little bit, and everything has gone crazy, but first I want to thank all of you for convincing me I did the right thing. I stuck to my guns and my wife, and I told Javid we see him as our son, and this was his grandfather's and mother's house, it will always be his too. He passed his classes, but the damage was done, and he has a poop GPA. As for his loans, thankfully TD was fair to him, so it was a no-brainer to help him pay it all off. This semester is going much better, and I have no doubt his grades will improve. Here's where it all gets a bit wackier, because a few days after I did that I got a call from Miriam. Met her at Tim Hortons, and it turns out she and Joe had a big fight after they left my home, and now she's divorced. Turns out that it's been bad for them since the pandemic started, and got worse ever since they evicted Javid, and this united front was a sham. To her it's been like they've been divorced for 2 years already. She told me she reconnected with Amir, who lived next to us for a few years when he was a teenager, and they became great friends, but Joe was mistrustful cause he's a decade younger than her, and a good-looking guy. The big thing was Joe refusing to get vaccinated even though he says he's liberal. She's a researcher, and Javid has freaking asthma. I'm guessing divorce sent Joe off the deep end cause he's going to Ontario to join the convo. Well, I went with Miriam to his house, got everything and moved her back into our home. Honestly, Miriam has been the happiest I've seen her in a very long time. Amir asked her out after New Year's and they started dating, so I guess all Joe feared had come to pass. It's weird cause I still remember him as a teen, but I do have to admit he's a successful guy who makes her happy, and like she said, her marriage was done for a while. He seems to really love her. My daughters love having Miriam around. My eldest keeps asking her for tutoring in bio, and youngest clings to her and is learning knitting from her. It was a bit awkward for Javed at first, but Miriam said sorry to him so much when she came back. She wouldn't stop hugging and kissing him while crying, so of course he forgave her. What son wouldn't? I will admit she has been spoiling and babying him since then. Or trying to. And says sorry to him every day even though he says she doesn't need to, and keeps promising to make things up to him. The big news is that my wife is pregnant even though we use protection. I don't know if I have a son or a princess coming, but I know my child will have a full family waiting. A father, mother, and 2 amazing sisters and the best big brother possible. We decided we'll all take a set of family photos during Javed's reading break and then another set next year once the baby's a bit older. Comment 1. Well, that took an unexpected turn. I'm glad his mother came around and Javed is turning his grades around. If he has room in his schedule, some schools let you retake classes and your new grade will replace the old one. Perhaps he can speak to someone at the school in case he is worrying too much about this GPA. Comment 2. You're the idiot. Are you kidding me? This update is just a train wreck from start to finish. First of all, you openly admit to being an enabler by not charging your nephew rent and treating him like a member of your immediate family. You are completely undermining his parents' authority and setting a terrible example. It's their responsibility to teach him about the real world and the importance of financial independence, not yours. And now you're telling us that your sister got a divorce and moved in with you. What kind of chaotic household are you running? It's clear that you have no boundaries and are inviting all sorts of drama into your home. You should have considered the impact this would have on your own family, and the dynamics between your daughters and their cousin-turned-brother. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for choosing my future husband's daughter over my niece? I, female 46, am marrying my fiancé, 50M. He has a daughter Davina, female 18, from his previous marriage. I don't have any children, nor do I want any. I have been with him for 11 years now. Davina and I are close. I love her like a daughter. My sister, female 45, has a daughter Jess, 18F. Now, it should be noted that Davina is an only child. She doesn't have any step or half siblings on her mother's side as well. This will be important later. Davina and Jess used to be friends. They go to the same school. But when they got to high school, they grew apart. Davina became popular. She made a lot of friends. Jess is introverted. She didn't like being in the crowd, so she just stopped associating with her. She started making up excuses when Davina would ask her to hang out, just the 2 of them. My sister is a single mom. I would sometimes help her with Jess when she was little. She would come over to my place at times before she got into high school. But ever since she started avoiding Davina, she doesn't come over unless necessary. I have spoken to both Jess and Davina multiple times and both have confirmed there is no bullying. When I got engaged, Jess asked me if she could have a part in the wedding. I said sure. Now I have asked Davina to be MOH and Jess to be a bridesmaid. Jess wasn't happy Davina was getting a more important role. Jess asked me to not give Davina a role at all, that she should be a regular guest. I said no. Sister called and asked the same thing. I said no to her as well. When I asked them why, their reply was literally, I don't like her. A few weeks ago, Dee and I ran into them at the mall. Davina was attempting to make small talk with Jess, but she just snapped at her. When Davina said, sorry, I didn't know you were in a bad mood. My sister snapped at me about how Davina is being spoilt as an only child, how she abandoned Jess once she got her flashy friends, how I am enabling Davina to let Jess continue live in Davina's shadow, about how fake I am when I speak to Dee's mom when I meet her at school games. She said this was harming Jess's mental health. At this point, Davina excused herself and called her mom to pick her up. Sis said, if I continue having a relationship with Davina, she and Jess will no longer want a relationship with me. When I reminded her that she would be my stepdaughter soon, she said she wants me to be civil with her and not try to be her second mom. She said it was time I returned to our family instead of a random teenager. I said she and Jess were my family, but I also chose Davina to be my family when I chose to be with my fiancé. Jess started crying. People started staring, so we just left. I don't know what sis told everyone, but now a lot of family members have blocked me. My parents and fiancé are on my side, but Davina has started spending more time at her mom's. Have I been unknowingly cruel to Jess? Should I take some time to just focus on Jess? Am I the idiot? Edit, spoke to mom who spoke to sis. We'll be meeting sis after work. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. You are 100% doing the right thing by your husband and soon-to-be stepdaughter. I commend your actions. Your sister is obviously not getting the truth from Jess. I mean, did she seriously think you wouldn't have your stepdaughter be involved in her own father's wedding? Sit your sister down without Jess and find out if she knows the whole story. Comment 2, not the idiot. You will be married to Davina's father, and you will be her stepmother. You have to put her first. Jess isn't your child. But something is going on. Your sister and Jess haven't told you everything. I would have a talk with your sister and find out exactly why. Tell her you can't possibly agree to something so asinine unless you know why, and this is a big thing she is expecting of you. If she can't come clean with you, no contact. Hating someone because they're popular is the same as hating someone because they're not. Now for the update. Thanks to everyone who told me to speak to my sister. I called my mom a few hours after I posted original I spoke to my sister 2 days ago. Apparently the issue between the girls was a boy. Yes, a boy. Jess liked him during freshman year, but he didn't like her back. Junior year he starts going out with Davina, and they are still together. Jess asked Dee to break up with him without giving her a reason to do so, and got upset when she didn't. Seeing Jess upset, sister also asked Davina to break up with him one day after showing up where Davina works. Yes, she cornered a kid during her work. Davina laughed in her face and said no. Other than that, she herself admitted Dee has done nothing to them. And those of you who said she wanted money, you were also right. My sister and Jess were under the impression that I would offer to pay for Jess's college. I was surprised when I asked why. Her response was, "Because we are family and you are helping with a random person's college. I am only paying for Davina's books. My fiancé and Dee's mom are paying for everything else because she is not eligible for a scholarship because parents have a higher income." At this point I was angry and told her I would have offered to pay for Jess's books as well, but now I am not giving her a penny. Sis looked horrified, but I left before she could say anything. Later someone added me to group chat with family members who had earlier blocked me. They said I had strayed from my family and I should come back to them. That I can make it up to them by fully paying for Jess and her brother's college. I left the chat and blocked them all. Won't be talking to them anytime soon. Earlier today, I spoke to Dee's mom. She agreed to let me pick her up from work. I spoke to Dee, took her to dinner, explained everything. She was happy. Apparently sister had told Jess she was meeting me, and Jess cornered her at school and told her I wouldn't want her in my life anymore. Davina was relieved to know it wasn't happening. She will be coming here tomorrow. Comment 1. It sounds to me like my sister and Jess have a lot of growing up to do. All this over a boy, because Dee wouldn't dump him cause Jess liked him? Shame on your sister for not setting Jess straight on this issue. The boyfriend is either Dee's property nor something to just give away. Dee and boyfriend obviously like each other, and that's that. Sister sounds very immature, and Jess sounds very spoiled. Dee is lucky to have you as her stepmother. You made the right choice moving on from this toxic situation and the relatives involved. Have a great wedding. Comment 2, you're the idiot. Wow, just wow. It's clear that you have completely lost touch with reality and basic human decency. You are prioritizing your future husband's daughter over your own niece, who has clearly been going through a tough time. Instead of trying to understand and support Jess, you dismiss her feelings and belittle her by referring to Davina as more important. It's incredibly heartless. Your sister has expressed valid concerns about the well-being of her daughter, and instead of showing any empathy or attempting to address the situation, you stubbornly defend your selfish actions. It's clear that you only care about your own desires and have no regard for the emotional well-being of your niece. If you enjoyed today's video, you'll like these ones too. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Am I the idiot for hiding from my mom that I'd been messaging her birth daughter? Sorry for the weird title. But when my mom, female 46, was 21, she was married to some guy in the States who was cheating on her when she was pregnant. She hated him and hated that she was having his baby, had a traumatic pregnancy, was really depressed and didn't like being a parent, and so signed away rights to Alyssa, female 25, some months after she gave birth. Alyssa was adopted by her father's affair partner and raised by her. My mom moved up north here to Canada, fell in love with my dad and married him when she was 30. She's had nothing to do with Alyssa besides demanding she never contact her again after she tried to. Last year my mom finally told me about Alyssa but made it clear that she didn't see her as her daughter and that Alyssa's mother was her father's wife. She also demanded that we not try to get them into any contact. So that's cool and all, but I was really fascinated by this idea of a sister I never had. So I secretly started messaging her, and even though she was hesitant at first, we've become good friends and I really want to meet her. She's also become really successful in her field and works at the University of Toronto, which is where I want to go. NGL, I really look up to her and would love to follow in her footsteps, and Toronto's a lot better than the city we live in. The problem was that I left my phone unlocked yesterday and my mom freaked when she saw that I was talking to her. She pointed out that she didn't want a reunion or me talking with her, that we aren't family, and doesn't want my siblings to know before they're my age. I felt really bad because she started crying a lot more than I'd ever seen before. My dad told me it would be okay, but he's the one who dropped me off at school even though it's always her, and I'm wondering if I was an idiot to hide me messaging Alyssa from her instead of being open about it. Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot, just say this. Mom, I understand you have a boundary when it comes to her. I promise you, I will respect that boundary. I won't bring her up to you in any way and I won't push for a reunion. But please understand that this is someone who I genuinely look up to. I enjoy the friendship I have with her. I promise, she still won't be a part of your life. But please respect my decision. Comment 2. I'm super curious on how you plan to navigate a relationship with your mom and with your half-sister. Because when you get married, how will you invite your half-sister knowing your mother's boundary? Or will you force your mother to accept her presence? Or future children? Or is your half-sister okay with the idea of not being invited to life events? I get that it's not your job to help your mother through her very obvious trauma, and your mom does need some help talking about whatever happened. But I just can't help but feel like you'll be in a position one day where you'll have to pick between them. Then the original poster responded with, assuming all goes well between me and my sister, yeah, I'd want her there for my wedding and for my kids, and I want to be at her wedding whenever she has it. She doesn't want to see my mom any more than my mom wants to see her. I mean, this is like 10 years in the future, so I don't know what I'd do, but IDGF thinking about it right now, so I guess I'd just ask them to avoid each other. Now for the update. Hey guys, thought I'd update. First thing, I gave my mom a giant hug like my little sister does and said sorry, and she forgave me. Then I had a big talk with mom and dad about Alyssa. The first thing my mom asked was if Alyssa wanted to meet her. She seemed sad when I told her that Alyssa threatened to cut me off if I'd ever try to make them meet. Then it got to what I wanted from Alyssa, and I said I just wanted to be her sister, to get to know her and be friends in real life and not just on the phone. I did admit that I wanted to go to pursue the field I told them of at UF because of her. I could tell my mom was getting a bit mad, but dad pointed out Alyssa is really successful, a good role model and a good mentor, and to deny me her would only hurt my future, so I had their permission. My mom did bring up the points that you guys did, like what if I graduate or get married and stuff. I admitted that I didn't know, but I'd find stuff that made it better or find different ways. I guess that hurt my mom, so she said it's will deal when it happens, but that she can work on her pain for me, and if Alyssa loves me she will too. I did have to promise not to tell my siblings, wasn't going to anyway, about Alyssa. Next time I talked to Alyssa, I told her that my mom found out we were talking and told her the whole mess that happened. She said she was glad that we could keep talking and it meant a lot to her that I want to be her sister. I told her what my mom said about me getting married, and she said they'd find a way and joked that she could just put on a balaclava mask for all events to avoid being seen. Well, on Christmas Alyssa FaceTimed and showed me a really pretty ring her boyfriend got her, and said she was getting married, and my present was tickets to see her in spring break and an invite to her wedding in the summer. She did say if my mom said I couldn't go she'd understand. I talked with mom and dad, and I can go as long as I can take my older cousin with me. He's 25 and has known all this for years, and according to Alyssa I can. She wants me to have a role in her wedding. Hopefully things aren't bad in March and I can go to Toronto. Honestly, since then it's all been great. I talk with Alyssa a lot more. She's gotten me into a game called Age of Empires. She's helped me with my chemistry homework. Mom's been going to therapy about her and started training me in tennis. And on Friday I got the invite card to her wedding, and it was written for me as, "To my sweet little sister." I have to hide it from my siblings though. Comment 1. Glad it worked out for you and Alyssa, your sister, who seems like a wonderful person. I hope when your siblings get older, they'll get the chance to build a relationship with Alyssa as well. Hopefully your mom will have a change of heart soon and stop punishing her children for things her ex did. Comment 2. Only thing I can say is prepare for backlash from your other siblings that you hid this from them. Comment 3. You're the idiot. This is just ridiculous. You are completely disregarding your mother's wishes and going behind her back to pursue a relationship with your half-sister. It's clear that your mother has unresolved trauma and pain surrounding the situation, and instead of showing empathy and understanding, you're actively defying her and seeking validation from strangers on the internet. Your obsession with your half-sister is disturbing. You claim to want to be her sister and follow in her footsteps, but you're just using her as a means to fulfill your own desires. It's selfish and disrespectful to both your mother and your half-sister. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for excluding my ex-sister-in-law and nephew from our family parties after she exposed my brother? So my brother and his ex-wife separated last year, and they finalized everything in their divorce recently. They have a 6-year-old son together, and I noticed my brother hasn't really been a part of his son's life since the separation the way he used to, and when I had asked him about it he said that she has full custody, and that's that. Since our family all have kids around the same age, we always throw big parties for them where we rent out a space and hire different forms of entertainment. We usually do this every summer and once during the school year. It's always really fun, and throughout the years we've opened it up to our kids' friends as well, so it's always a huge celebration and like a mini carnival. We had to cancel the summer party this year because of a destination wedding, so we are having a huge party tomorrow instead. It came out last week that my ex-sister-in-law has a social media account where she's starting posting about how her and her ex-husband had to use a sperm donor because he couldn't have kids, and how that since their separation he disowned his son and doesn't want any relationship with him anymore. My sister's friends sent her the account, and she has a few thousand followers and like 10 videos talking about the process and answering people's questions. When we asked our brother about it, he already knew because someone showed him and was having multiple breakdowns because this was a sensitive subject he didn't want anyone to know about, and that she's doing this as revenge because he's not in his son's life. I was disgusted by the behavior. If my brother doesn't want to be in his son's life, he doesn't have to be. To expose a secret he hadn't even told our parents to the world was appalling. To my complete surprise, my sister-in-law had the nerve to message me a few days ago asking for the address to the party. I called her and told her that we know about her little account and that she and her son have no place at our party, and that she's disgusting for even asking. She told me multiple kids in her son's grade are going, and I told her that's not my business and to lose all of our numbers. She then had the nerve to post a video about our call, and multiple people in her comments have been calling me all sorts of horrible names and assholes. I didn't care since my entire family agrees that she or him don't go, but a student in my daughter's class, mom who must be friends with my ex-sister-in-law that's always attended the party, messaged me saying her daughter won't be attending because of my childish, disgusting attitude, and she will be telling others the same. I've been sick about that ever since. Am I the idiot? She did expose my brother's deepest secret. And also, this isn't a party you can just drop off. Parents are required to stay since there's multiple events going on, and we don't want to be liable, and we don't want her there. Now, for a few comments before the update. Am I interpreting this correctly? Your brother and his, then, partner had a child together using donor sperm. Your brother now doesn't want anything to do with his child. If I am, then your brother is a massive arsehole for thinking he can just opt out of parenting. And you're the idiot for thinking his choice is okay. I don't particularly like what your sister-in-law is doing, but in my humble opinion, it pales in comparison to your brother's decision to walk away from his responsibilities to his child. Comment 2, you're the idiot for this statement. If my brother doesn't want to be in his son's life, he doesn't have to. That's some fricked up poop. Also for putting son in quotes. Really disturbing. Now for the update. I decided to give you guys an update since I did read all your feedback and your words. I decided it wouldn't be right to not let my nephew come at least, so I did contact my ex-sister-in-law and told her they could come. She said she didn't feel comfortable coming, but her mother would bring him since he really wanted to go. The party was on Saturday and went amazing. He did come with his grandma and everything went fine. I realized I was taking a lot of my anger on my nephew and ultimately hurting him, when in reality I was upset with ex-sister-in-law. Our family was choosing between our brother or his ex's family, and we all chose him, not realizing our nephew is still our family. The shock of not finding out he's our blood shouldn't have made us estranged from him. Our brother is upset we are still including my nephew, and his therapist said this shouldn't have happened, and we are wrong. It was hard telling him our choice to allow him in our lives since we agreed to leave my brother's past in the past, but my sisters and I are planning to sometime next week. He's under the impression we have no contact with either our ex-sister-in-law or nephew, and says he doesn't want us to have any contact with either, saying when he's ready to date again it will drive a woman away, that his family is still in contact with his ex and a child that's not even his. He would be furious if he knew our nephew was at the party with a member of ex-sister-in-law's family, but it's honestly not his business what we choose to do. It's a hard conversation we're going to have. Comment 1. What kind of therapist is your brother seeing? I don't think they would tell him to abandon his son, blood ties or not, and I don't think the therapist would say that anyone is right or wrong in this. Whole point of therapy is to work out the tangled mess in your brain and make it make sense, and hash out past and present traumas so that you can process them better. Also, if you notice, your brother's real problem with his son is that he's gonna make it harder for your brother to find someone new. Your brother really is the true idiot in all of this. Comment 2. You're the idiot. Are you serious? You caved in and allowed your nephew to come to the party? After everything you said about your brother disowning him and how your ex-SIL exposed your brother's secret? You are a complete hypocrite. Your brother made a terrible decision by abandoning his own child, and instead of holding him accountable, you're enabling his behavior by excluding your ex-SIL and nephew from your family events. It's disgusting and cruel. And now you're saying that your brother is upset and his therapist said you're wrong? Well, maybe he should be upset. Maybe he should realize the consequences of his actions and face the fact that he abandoned his own flesh and blood. But instead, you're more concerned about your brother's dating prospects and how your choices might affect his love life? That is beyond messed up. If you enjoyed today's video, you'll like these ones too. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Am I the idiot for publicly calling out the school nurse? My male 34 daughter has type 1 diabetes. Female 11, for the most part, she handles it like a champ, but she's a kid. Sometimes it sucks. I don't blame her when she's upset about it. She's gotten very good at managing how she's feeling and speaking up when she feels off or wrong. That said, she's 11, and the nurse and 2 of her block teachers are meant to supervise when she gives herself medication. We have a 504 plan in place at her school and have had it in place since diagnosis. I have conferences with teachers every year, and since she started at the middle school this year, her new nurse and administrative staff. I let my daughter speak her piece and let her feel heard. She struggled with non-school extracurricular before ignoring her concerns when she says she doesn't feel good because she looks fine. This school year started at the end of August, and we met a week prior. I got a call Monday afternoon while I was at work saying that the school bus driver had to call the ambulance for my daughter on the way home because she fainted. My job is 40 minutes away, so I said I would meet them at the hospital. She was awake and chatting with her nurse when I got there. Her blood sugar had dropped very, very low while she was at school. She was feeling better and didn't seem too bothered, so I took her home once allowed and let her pick a movie to watch. Once the movie was over, I asked if she didn't feel good at school. I needed to make sure she wasn't ignoring her symptoms and had eaten lunch. She told me that she felt weird just before the end of the day, and checked her sugar with her teacher, who had sent her to the nurse when it was really low. When she told the nurse she needed glucagon, the nurse said no and she should take it at home when she gets there. At this point, I was raging. The nurse did not give her medication and then sent her to the bus. The 504 plan in place has a stipulation that if her blood sugar is too low at the end of the day, she cannot take the bus home. The nurse is supposed to give her glucagon, and I get called to pick her up / arrange someone to take her home. The bus drivers aren't trained to know what to look for or to give her medication. I called the school Tuesday morning to arrange a meeting to talk about what happened. We scheduled it, but it hasn't happened yet. In the meantime, I went wild. Mile-long Facebook post with pictures of the 504 and hospital bill and me ranting. It kind of took off and got a lot of attention. Last night, my siblings and coworkers started telling me maybe I went too far in making the post, specifically in my naming the nurse. It was shared in a couple of different pages on Facebook for our county and town, and a lot of people have been making comments on the school board's social media about the nurse. A lot of the outrage comes from other parents with kids on 504 or IEP plans. Am I the idiot for calling out the school / nurse? Now for a few comments before the update. Not the idiot. The nurse neglected a medical plan and your daughter got sick because of it. I'd do the same thing. If she can't care for the children and do her job, then she doesn't need to be a nurse. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The nurse was wildly irresponsible for sending a child with a low blood glucose level anywhere, never mind onto a bus. I would have reacted exactly the same way. She put your baby's life at risk, and that is the worst distress someone can cause a parent. That said, just double check with someone in the know to make sure that there are no potential legal ramifications to your post. Perhaps a disclaim post out to say that you're speaking to the school and the result of that is pending just to cover yourself. Now for the update. In short, the nurse was fired. She was reported to all necessary persons by myself and the school. My daughter is fine. She is in a new school. We're reviewing her treatment and school plans with doctors. That day, my daughter's last block teacher had gone to the nurse to check in on her because she knew her sugar was too low to go on the bus. She didn't see my daughter there and asked the nurse, who told the teacher she'd dismissed her, to the bus. Internally, the teacher reported the nurse before I even knew what happened. My lawyer came to the meeting with me. The school was already in damage control mode and as apologetic as could be. They let me know the nurse was put on leave by the next morning. Their lawyer came with an offer to pay the medical bills. He talked about how they would be meeting with the teachers' union so they could properly move forward with the nurse's dismissal. My lawyer and I left, and he said they were doing everything they could to not have me sue them. I chose not to sue so long as they covered the hospital bills and damages. For those who asked about glucagon injection without her passing out, that day, her vision went black, she was dizzy, and she was stumbling once in the nurse's office. Other health things, she's getting a CGM and a phone. Regrettably, I was not above bribing her. We're revising her plan and talking to her new school about all of the changes. For those concerned about my using the nurse's name, my lawyer had no concerns since her name was in multiple places associated with the school and her place of employment was on her own social media sites. Since during the meeting it was confirmed what happened with my daughter, and what she told me was accurate, he didn't think she would have any grounds to stand on if she wanted to pursue action against me. For those who commented I was TA for sharing my daughter's info on Facebook, I have 50 friends who are majority family. I also always check with her when I post pictures and about what I share. That's the easiest place for multiple people to get quick and or big updates at once. Some of the older family members check Facebook more than their emails. You can be upset I shared this, but this system has worked for us. Family gets updates of what she's okay with them all knowing. I didn't think my Facebook could share my posts, but my privacy settings were open. That's since been fixed. Also, since if you asked, I am my daughter's only parent. Her mother gave up all rights and no longer lives nearby, which is why she is not in the list of emergency contacts. For obvious reasons, I'm still upset about it all, but my daughter is acting as if nothing ever happened. She's fitting into her new school well and she's as happy as ever. Comment 1. I'm glad to hear this. Glad that the school did the right thing. If it were me, I'd get that teacher a gift card to Barnes & Noble, Starbucks or Amazon. I'm actually a little sad you moved your daughter to a different school. She had a teacher who cared enough to go check on her in the nurse's office, and the school was proactive about making it right. Bad things happen, but the willingness to address it and fix it is what's really important. And a teacher who goes out of her way to check on her students is worth her weight in gold. Comment 2. You're the idiot. Are you kidding me? You not only publicly shamed the school nurse but also shared personal medical information about your daughter on Facebook? That is a gross violation of privacy and a clear overreaction to the situation. Yes, the nurse made a mistake by dismissing your daughter to the bus when her blood sugar was low. However, the appropriate response would have been to address the issue with the school and work towards a resolution, not to publicly shame and name the nurse. What purpose does that serve other than to create a toxic environment and potentially harm the nurse's reputation? Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for hiding my daughter's autism from her? So pretty much, most of her life, our daughter, female 14, had various issues. She had a speech delay, didn't make eye contact, was extremely hyperactive, had trouble making friends, fidgeted a lot, was extremely strict with rules, and a whole bunch of other stuff. My wife and I suspected that she may be autistic, and we took her to a psychologist when she was 4. The psychologist diagnosed her with hyperactivity disorder, although we don't know if it coexists with her autism or if it was a misdiagnosis. From 8 to 11, we gave our daughter as much early intervention as possible. She'd seen behavioral and speech, she was able to speak, but had a speech impediment, therapists. I'd given her various books about how to make and keep friends. At that point, she was a bookworm. We got her placed in a social class to help her build social skills. It wasn't until the end of her 4th grade year that she actually got diagnosed with autism. Her psychologist was excited to tell her, but my wife was against it. She wanted to wait until we felt our daughter was old enough to understand. We are aware of the stigma neurodivergent people experience, and she didn't want our daughter to go through that. I agreed to hide it from her until she reached adulthood. This next part is relevant. When our daughter got into grade 6, she was bullied due to her autistic traits. She was gaslit, taken advantage of, and had many false friends who backstabbed her. It made our daughter insecure about her poor social skills, and that was when she started to mask. It left her with such immense trauma that she still has triggers and is in therapy. Today, she came to us and asked, "What is autism?" We told her it is a different way of thinking. She was confused since she didn't know we meant it in a sense that autistic people have a different brain chemistry from neurotypicals. After we elaborated, she told us the reason why she asked. She found out that she is autistic. She apparently found some of her old medical records lying around and read them out of curiosity. She was upset and asked us how we could hide this from her. We explained that we wanted to tell her when she was older since we didn't want her to get hurt by other people. She angrily yelled that she did get hurt anyways. She said that all this time she thought that there was something wrong with her, but if it weren't for us she wouldn't have taken the bullying to heart and she would have felt differently, but instead we made her pain worse. Now she's in her room crying and refuses to speak to either of us. We are starting to wonder if we should have told her about autism when we knew. Now for a few comments before the update. You're the idiot. I am autistic and was diagnosed as an adult. Getting my diagnosis was like an epiphany. So much of my life suddenly made sense, and I was able to explain to people in my life that I needed something different and why. It was empowering. I wish that it had been diagnosed years earlier, not only because of the support I could have had, but because it could have saved me decades of heartache and situations arising that I didn't understand. You denied her that understanding and ability to advocate for herself. Comment 2. You're the idiot. What exactly did you think not telling her would protect her from? That it would magically make the other kids not notice she was different? Seriously, take a step back and consider how you would feel if someone kept this sort of important info about yourself from you. Now, for the update. Her mother and I were completely in the wrong. We should never have tried to hide an integral part of our daughter's identity. We thought we were protecting her, but we only made it worse. I didn't know that it wasn't right at the time, but now I do. We come from a country where mental stuff isn't talked about. If anything, the person gets stigmatized for it, so we did our best to support our daughter with what we knew at the time. This isn't to excuse our actions, but rather to explain them. A few hours after posting my original post, her mother and I had a long talk about this, reflecting on what we did wrong and what we should do moving forward. I gave her space for a day or two before knocking on her door and asking her if she wanted to talk with me about it. I apologized for what we did, telling her that we love her no matter what, and promised that we would be better parents moving forward. She says that she understands that we were just trying to do what we thought was the best for her, but she felt hurt that we kept these things from her, especially given what happened to her and having to find out from medical records of all things. She says that she isn't sure if she could trust us again for a while. Our daughter is still angry with us, although we understand why. She's at least on speaking terms with us again. We're doing our best to help our daughter through her journey of self-discovery at the moment. We got her another therapist to help her understand more about herself as well as accept the past bullying. Her mother and I are also doing research about how autism works, and we are looking to get her an IEP at her school to give her access to accommodations. In addition to this, we took some of your advice, and her mother and I have been seeking therapy to better understand our autistic daughter as well as family therapy. Thank you all for your judgment. Thanks to those who gave tips on how to support our daughter moving forward. I feel ashamed that I didn't realize sooner that I'd harmed our daughter. She seems happier now that she understands why she is the way she is. We fiercely love our girl and are lucky to have her. Comment 1. I'm one of the people who commented on the original about being diagnosed late in life. I'm glad you're accepting responsibility, but it is really on you and your wife right now to follow through. Therapy is great, but you're going to need to fight for her and really advocate for her. My experience with education, albeit in a different country, is that even when you clearly should get accommodations due to special educational needs, you may have to fight hard for them and face resistance. It may not be an easy path for you or her. Also, just a heads up that your daughter might mask less after discovering her diagnosis. It's not uncommon, and I mask a lot less with close friends and at home because I no longer feel obligated to try to appear neurotypical. For me, it's an incredibly positive thing to mask less. But I know it was a little adjustment for those around me who were used to me masking. Comment 2. Damn, it's a shame she suffered for this long, and that she's essentially traumatized. I don't want to say congratulations for doing the bare minimum, and I won't, but at least you're doing the right thing now. If you enjoyed today's video, you'll like these ones too. Thanks for watching and see you next time.